Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Earlier, we were talking about the Lakers versus the Pelicans, which happened last night, and now we're going to be talking about the.
I was just going to ask you. I was going to ask you a quick question before you jump into your story, real quick.
Yes.
you're you're like, yes, I know you're a big Caitlin Clark fan,
Yes.
and I sent you a couple of TikToks yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see how much she's getting paid as the first pick in the NBA draft?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes.
Okay, from that was when I saw that I was shocked. I knew players from the WNBA did not get paid much,
Mm-hmm.
but she's gonna make
Yeah.
$76,535
There are
her first
people.
year.
There are people who graduate college with a bachelor's degree and they'll get a job and they make more than that on their first job, depending on what your
So,
degree is in.
okay, but think about this. 50% of that is gonna go to taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you cut 76,000 down to what, 38, let's say 40, and then you give the agent has to take their cut.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that's a 5 or 7% right there. She's right about 30,000, 30, like maybe a little bit 32,000 for the year.
Yeah.
Imagine if I know she has endorsements and things like that, but you could be the number one pick in the WNBA draft, and let's say you go to the LA Sparks or or the Liberty. Man, you need two or three roommates to even get a place.
Yeah, I was reading some comments of the videos that you sent me, and one of them was like, Caitlin Clark's gonna have a roommate, and they're gonna ask where she's going, and she's like, "Oh, I'm just off to practice for for a
You
professional basketball league."
seriously, that when you think about how much a player gets paid in the WNBA, and I know there's a lot of people upset about it, and it's not I don't look at it as a man woman thing.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as a support issue. This is a massive support issue.
That and skill level too. Like she is the all-time leading scorer in Division 1 college basketball, men and women, and she's only
But
getting paid 70,000,
right,
something like that, in
it's
her
one of those
first year.
things where the players are slotted and how much they make. My issue is when you look at how many people came out to watch her. This is the reason why I'm hoping that the people that came out to watch her in the NCAA tournament turns out to watch the WNBA
Mm-hmm.
because they're getting this money because they're not getting the ratings, so they're not bringing in the advertising dollars, so they're not getting the big contracts. And this is they're right now they're having their biggest contract is just starting.
Mm-hmm.
But like people, when you watch Caitlin, when you watch these games, they're great games. Why I don't understand why people do not watch the WNBA. It's a shame to me when I look at the number one pick in the draft. I don't care who it is. It doesn't have to be Caitlin.
Mm-hmm.
It's slotted. Whoever's the number one pick, that's how much they get their first year. That's a travesty. I
It's a
mean,
travesty.
I feel like it should have been at least 100,000 minimum, right? Is that fair? Like the number one pick just started at flat out 100 grand.
They probably
We'll
can't
slot everybody
afford
up.
that. They
No, there's
probably
not.
can't afford that. I don't remember how much money like the WNBA gets for. Let me double check that real quick. What they get for like their TV ratings, stuff like that.
It's not a lot.
Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, it was on here. Okay. No, that's not right. Anyway, it's not a lot for their TV deal. The WNBA currently makes about $60 million a year from its media rights, so they're not going to be able to afford to pay
Right.
her,
That's a
100,000 starting out.
that's a sin. I feel like half the United States, a little more than half the United States, is women. Okay,
Hmm.
let's take the men, throw them in a lake. The women should be showing up to these games, right?
Yeah,
Where the heck are they?
yeah, I agree.
Show up to the games and watch them.
Hmm.
I'm committed to watching more women's basketball and more women's college basketball. I
Hmm.
still like I'm a huge women's MMA fan, women's CrossFit, uh, women's tennis, women's golf. But I'm going to make a big effort this year to this coming year to watch more women's basketball because they need the ratings.
Hmm.
And just to get out there and support women. Women need to get out there and start watching these games. And
I agree.
then make your significant other go to the games with you as well. It should be if it's quality sports, it shouldn't matter that it's women's sports.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
kind of the way I say it.
yeah,
So
I agree.
I wanted to say that before we went into our next topic because it just shows like how few people are watching the WNBA and it's
Hmm.
it's 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 not right.
Yeah.
So get out there, watch the games.
Yeah. Well, before we dive into our regularly scheduled program, we did get another comment from YouTube. Uh,
Uh-oh.
Pete or Petey, however it's spelled with two T's and an E. So, Pete 34 asked a question saying, "What about Zion?" I'm not exactly sure if they're asking, if like we talked about him or like
Oh,
what
about Zion.
happened
No, I
or.
I talked about Zion. Zion went off in the play-in game against the Lakers. Went with 40 points, 11 rebounds, I think 5 assists. This was really his first real playoff game, and he delivered. He
Mm-hmm.
he was there. He was box office. He was physical. He really, he really showed up for the game, showing to me, showing that New Orleans has a bright future. As long as Zion can get himself healthy, get his weight, make sure his weight is under control, you can build a team around Zion. There's a bright future there,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't shrink when the lights were on. He really kicked his game up. So I loved what Zion did in the
Yeah.
game against the Lakers, and hopefully he's healthy. I think they said he pulled a hamstring or something like that. Hopefully he's healthy, and for the final play-in spot, he can show up and play against Sacramento. Because if he puts another performance like this on, they can beat Sacramento if Zion's playing. If Zion doesn't play, I don't give him much chance.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
Alrighty. Well, back to our regularly scheduled program. Um,
uh
so the Warriors lacked cohesion and identity, which doomed their season as they stumbled out of the playoff contention. One of the things that stood out this season for the Golden State Warriors was the constant search for something that just worked. Any team looking to contend for a title, or at the very least looking to become a serious playoff team, has to bring something to the table that takes form of an identity rooted up. Stability and consistency. In all the years the Warriors have won their 4 championships, they knew who they were, a team that moves the ball, moves its players, and takes an approach in order to boost the dominance of its best players. That requires a couple of things: having a coaching staff that dictates the culture, having stars and veterans who accept the culture and set the tone for the rest of the roster, and arguably the most important one, having the correct personnel to make that culture on the court an outstanding success. all of the above were present in 2015 and 2016, despite the blown 3-1 lead in 2017, 2018, and against all odds allowed the Warriors to succeed in 2022, and what empowered Steph Curry to do most of the legwork in their finals win over the Boston Celtics. 2 years later, in the story of the Warriors' 2024 season is the complete opposite of the formula that took them to the top. There was no consistent stretch of any lineup, rotation, or identity they could bank on for long stretches. Injuries and suspensions played a part in that. Mistakes were made along the way, across the board, coaching staff, players, front office, etc. There's no denying that the coaching staff led by Steve Kerr has seen better days. Even the most ardent Kerr defender or impartial viewer can see the stumbles and falls in terms of rotation decisions, lineups, and encore tactical decisions. The Warriors had trouble playing the way that they wanted to on offense, and the numbers supported that theory despite a healthy Curry season in which he played 74 regular season games, the most since 2016 and 17 season, which was 79 games. They finished the season 10th in offensive rating and garbage time, which feels like an underachievement given that they have one of the most potent offensive forces on the roster. But even while Curry can still move mountains as the focal point of the offense, he still needs to be supported offensively, which is true of all great players in the past, present, and future.
Saw that look you made. Garbage time is when the game's pretty much over. They got a big lead. Sometimes there's no pressure on you, so you're just letting it fly because you have there's no pressure. When the game's on the line, that's when the pressure's there. It's a lot harder to make shots and do things. So that's why they call it garbage time. Okay, because I saw that look you gave. I speak faithese. Okay, I looked at this and I watched this game. And the thing that popped in my mind is, you ever heard this saying, if it ain't broke, what's the next part to it? Right. Well, this is broke down, got 4 flats. It's smoking out the back. I'm sorry. I watched Golden State and the dynasty is over. It is over. I love Steph. I love Clay. Draymond, I like Draymond. Chris Paul, I love him as well. Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Kevon Looney. But this team needs to be broken up. They're not going to contend for a championship until they turn the page. Remember, we were talking about Klay Thompson, and I love Klay, but you cannot have a must-win. This was a win or go home type situation, okay? Now, Klay Thompson played 31 minutes and 36 seconds, okay? So he played a lot in the game. The person that played the most was Steph Curry with 36 minutes. So Klay was out there pretty much the entire game. Faith, you had a better game than Klay. And I'm not joking.
I highly doubt that.
Okay, you tell me who had a better game, Faith or Klay? Klay played 31 minutes and 36 seconds. He went 0 for 10 from the field, 0 for 6 on 3-point shots, 0% from 3. He had no free throws for a grand total of 0 points.
I think Klay, we're on an even playing field right now. I wouldn't say that I would play better than him. We're on an even playing field. Someone who is 4'11", I wouldn't make any of that.
The fact is, you telling me you can't go 0 for 6 from 3? You can't go 0 for 10 from the field? I can do that.
You
That's
can
a
do that.
sin.
I can't do that.
And that's not, and okay, and guys, I'm not trying to be Mr. Hot Take guy at
Mm-hmm.
all. I don't mean to be that. But what happened out there was, this is sudden death. You win or you go home. And Clay might have had his worst game of his career. Okay.
Yeah, that's not great.
Chris Paul, Hall of Fame point guard Chris Paul played 18 minutes. He got 3 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. You can't have that.
Mm-hmm.
These you have your veterans out. You keep veterans on your team so that they can step up at this time. This is when you want your all-star veterans, your Hall of Fame players to rise to the occasion, and they didn't. Steph Curry was Steph Curry, but they were able to throw the kitchen sink at Steph Curry. Steph Curry only got 22 points because they made it. Steph was not going to beat them. They wanted everyone else to beat them. Andrew Wiggins. It was like, where's Andrew Wiggins? 12 points. Draymond, he doesn't really he's not a big shot guy. He does a lot of other things. But Draymond only had 12 points, 3 rebounds. I mean, it was horrible. Kaminga had 16 points, but they came out incredibly flat. This didn't seem like a play-in game. It seemed like they were like an all they didn't play hard. And I watched this game, and to me, you think about Golden State revolutionizing the game by being able to shooting 3-point shots and shooting. And Sacramento plays better Golden State basketball than the Golden State Warriors do. They were hitting shots, Harrison Barnes, Murray, Sabonis, they were hitting their shots, they were more athletic, they were more physical. I mean, across the board, they were just a better team
Mm-hmm.
on every aspect of the game. And when you think about the fact that this is a do or die situation, and they got blown out and came out incredibly flat, and I know Steve Kerr came out and said that they desperately want Klay Thompson back. I think it's time to break him up. I would love to see it for Klay. I think the smart move for Klay is to come back. I think Klay should take a huge, huge pay cut and come back to them as far as what's best for him. But what's best for Golden State, I feel like moving on from Klay, moving on from Chris Paul, um, you know, Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins, he hasn't been the last 2 years he hasn't done that well. Draymond's an aging player as well. It's time for them to start rebuilding and putting some other players, some younger, more athletic players around Steph Curry. You don't have to do a complete teardown because you still have Steph Curry, but it's time. It's no longer the Splash Brothers. It's just Steph. And you got to realize that and start building for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's out there is, I don't see them even as a playoff team next year.
Mm-hmm.
They played so poorly this year, and this old team is only going to get older. I think they're almost at the second apron already, so they don't have a lot of cap space. There's going to be some players that need to take some cuts. I'd be trading guys. I would blow this team up with the exception of Steph and see if I can make one more run with Steph. because it's a disservice to let Steph keep coming out there and playing on a team that really has no shot at contending for championships. Steph and LeBron are in this now for can they win another championship? And I feel like the Lakers, wherever things land with them, but the future is we got to put a team where they're in a championship or bust kind of mode. And I feel like either Sacramento needs to go and say, we're in a rebuild, or we're going to go make one more run with Steph Curry, and we're going to put the players around that Steph Curry needs to be successful. And those players are not Andrew Wiggins and they're not Klay Thompson. And they're both of those guys are great guys, and I hate saying that.
Mm.
So
Mm-mm-mm. Alrighty, guys. Well, with that, we are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Bucks to be without a star for the start of the playoffs, and we'll also be talking about Victor Wembanyama reflecting on a great rookie year in the NBA. So make sure you guys stick around, and we'll be back in a minute.